Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have said on this platform that one of the main reasons why Zimbabwe is a failed state is because the opposition sold out. The MDC, when it was formed in 1999, was formed on the understanding that once the elected leaders get into power, they will implement the necessary democratic changes to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. That was the primary purpose. Unfortunately, when the MDC leaders got into power, they sought to feather their own nest, and they completely forgot that their primary reason they were in office was to implement the reforms. The party itself is called the Movement for Democratic Change. Democratic change. And yet they failed to implement even one token democratic change, even when they had the best opportunity to do so during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Information on corruption, how the MDC leaders sold out, is beginning to come out. The other day we heard somebody talking about how Chamisa, Tendai Biti, Welshman Nuve, Morgan Changirai got farms. This information was not known by many people. But now it seems there is more information coming out. Here is a video clip of one of the MDC leaders during the GNU, Monzora, talking on this very issue.
Economic activity, but any implication that we were bribed is wrong. These are clean conditions of service, and whoever replaced me as leader of the opposition gets the same. If you go to Bronsberry, to your left side, if you are coming from Harare, there are a lot of pieces of land that are owned by members who are members of the opposition now, that they got during the inclusive government. Well, I'm not like them. I'm not like them. So you may have to find out on your own, but they are there. And they have received, some people got loans from the Reserve Bank in 2000, during the inclusive government. And they bought trucks using those loans. Nobody's saying anything about that because that's their economic activity. But any implication that we were bribed is wrong. These are clean conditions of service, and whoever replaced me as leader of the opposition gets the same.
Clean benefits, conditions of service. I can't believe it. Ben, welcome to the program.
Believe it because it's true. I mean, when this whole saga of how the opposition actually benefited during the GNU and are still benefiting right now, when it came out, I was one who said, this is just the surface. Once we start digging deeper, we will see how much the opposition is in bed with Zanu PF. And now we can see that the opposition is nothing but Zanu PF in all but name. Doing exactly what Zanu PF would do in works, in talks, in everything, in all aspects. There is no doubt that this opposition that we have is corrupt, just like Zanu PF, incompetent, just like Zanu PF. We have a serious problem, and each and every time we have stood up and spoken about the opposition, we have been labeled, insulted, that we are Zanu PF sympathizers, we are Varakashi. But this is the truth. Why do we have to hide the truth? I think we got a problem as Zimbabwe, where we do not want the truth because it will shake our leaders or it will rock our leaders' world. But they are corrupt. It does not change the fact. And I believe we are still at the surface. We will get even deeper and it will get even more ugly.
I think we need to emphasize here that when you start getting a farm, getting a loan, not from the ordinary bank like everybody else, but from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. And there's no doubt that many of these politicians never repaid these loans. That is not the conditions of service. Let's be very clear on that. And it is also important here to note that what Douglas Monzora is dismissing as mere conditions of service had the the problem was that kept them silent. When Zanu PF cronies were asked during the GNU, why are MDC leaders not implementing the reforms? They did not hide it. They even boasted about it. Mazivanhu MDC adzidza kudya anyerere. They will not rock the boat. They are enjoying the benefits of the gravy train. They are not going to rock the boat. What the people of Zimbabwe must accept here is that the MDC selling out, the price for it was unacceptable. Because without any doubt, the 2008 to 2013 offered the best chance Zimbabwe has ever had to implement the democratic reforms and dismantle the Zanu PF dictatorship. We wasted that chance because the MDC leaders were bribed, varamromo. They accepted the farms, they accepted the loans, and they forgot the reforms. And the country lost that chance. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. And it is, of course, insulting that people like Monzora should now want us to believe that the bribes were all just conditions, part of their fringe benefits as members of parliament. It wasn't. Why should the members of parliament be so favored that they can have farms, they can have these loans from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, they can drive the E-Class Mercedes-Benz, things that the ordinary citizen was far beyond their reach. And it still doesn't explain, and they fail to explain why they failed to implement the reforms. What made them forget about the reforms? It is the bribes. That is the reality that we are dealing with here.
We have often spoken about why the opposition is always eager to participate in rigged elections, despite the fact that international observers have warned against it and have continuously told the opposition to implement the reforms necessary to finally have free, fair, and credible elections. And I think without a doubt, this is the reason. They know that they will get a free bacon with this continued participation. And now they have become willing participants at our expense. I mean, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. In a country where the hospitals are empty, we don't have any drugs. In a situation and in a country where our children are learning under trees, they do not have books, they do not have desks. The government has got money to pamper MPs. Now, we're talking of $70,000 cars each. We are talking now of these stands each. And we know that at one point they were given $40,000 loans. And now it seems as if they have been getting loans each and every time. As to what Monzora has just said, that it has been happening since the GNU. And we know 2023, just before the end of Parliament, they got $40,000. This is all about money. They keep on saying, with one hand, Zanu PF is spending so much on luxuries, cars, women's league vehicles, and so forth. But the honest truth is, they are only saying that so that we, think that they're on our side. But in the dead of the night, they are recipients of the same corrupt and dirty money. We have to look at it as it is and call a spade a spade. This opposition that we have, MDC, CCC, they are nothing but corrupt, utterly useless and incompetent leaders. And we need to throw the whole thing out. It's now junk, it's garbage, and start afresh. Look for new competent leaders. They are out there. Zimbabwe is not short of competent leaders. It is us who do not want change. The moment we want change, we will look for it in the right places. But if we continue with this MDC, CCC, reshuffling them and calling whatever we want, we are not going to see any change. And we are going to be stuck in this here situation for a very, very long time. Thank you.
In my closing remarks, I would like to remind Zimbabweans that nations get the government they deserve. We in Zimbabwe, we deserve this corrupt, incompetent, tyrannical Zanu PF dictatorship, complete with its equally corrupt, incompetent MDC CCC sidekick. I have emphasized before, if you want to end the Zanu PF dictatorship, we had choices in the late 1990s. The people realized that Zanu PF will never reform itself out of office. So it's either we take up arms to force them out, or we elect an opposition that will be, whose main task would be to implement the democratic reforms to end Zanu PF dictatorship. We chose the second option. We elected MDC CCC these last 26 years on that understanding. Zanu PF is still able to blatantly rig the elections because no meaningful reforms have been implemented in all those years. You don't have to be a genius to come to the conclusion that the opposition we elected all these last 26 years have failed. Why some people have failed to make that rational decision, beggars belief, is the reason why the nation is a failed state. MDC CCC leaders sold out. They failed to implement even one token meaningful reform during the GNU when they had the best opportunity to do so. Anyone who thinks they will do so now is naive. People have to wake up and realize that if you're going to have any meaningful change. Like I said, nations get the government they deserve. If you want a functioning democracy, this is what you've got to do. You've got to accept that the MDC CCC leaders, as Zanu PF team B in all but name, playing for Team A to win and have legitimacy, and in return for them to have a share of the spoils of power. That is the truth. Thank you very much. Have a good day.